Every world hides its secrets, and some beings belong to more than one. I am born of two worlds where science meets spirituality and reality collides with imagination. Welcome to the space between worlds. The night sky burned with strange light. Stars shimmered like they were whispering secrets to the world below. On the edge of the great black mountains, something enormous moved, wings heavy with sorrow, eyes glowing with pain. It was Sarathra, the last mother dragon of her kind. Her scales, once shining like molten gold, were now dull and cracked. Every breath she took came with a trembling rumble that echoed across the valley. In her arms, protected between her claws, lay her tiny hatchling, weak and still. The little dragon's chest rose and fell slowly. Its wings barely twitched. Its once bright eyes were dim, almost lifeless. Sarathra looked down at her young and let out a low, broken growl, a sound of pain that no human language could describe. For days she had searched. She had flown across burning deserts, frozen cliffs, and dead forests. She had called to the old dragons, but none had answered. Her kind was gone, and now her last child was dying. The world had changed. Humans had come. They built cities of metal and smoke. They hunted dragons for their scales, bones, and power. Sarathra had hidden far from their machines deep in the mountains, but tonight she had no choice. She needed help, and the only creatures left who might help were humans. A lightning flash cut across the sky. The storm was coming. The baby whimpered, a soft cry that made her heart twist. She lowered her massive head and whispered something in the ancient dragon tongue, a prayer for strength. Then, spreading her wings, she took off toward the nearest human outpost. Far away in a lonely cabin near the valley, a man named Elias Thorne sat beside a dying fire. He was a quiet man, a biologist once, before the wars, before the great species collapse. Now he lived alone, studying whatever life was left in the wild lands. He had lost faith in humans, in governments, in progress. He trusted only his books and the stars. The night outside was restless. The wind carried a strange smell, smoke, ash, and something electric like the air after lightning. His dog, a small mutt named Kira, began to growl low in her throat. Elias frowned. "Easy, girl," he said, "it's just the storm." But then the earth trembled, the fire flickered, the shelves rattled, dishes fell. A deep sound rolled through the valley like thunder, but alive. Elias grabbed his lantern and stepped outside. The rain had not yet started, but the air was thick with energy. He looked toward the mountains and froze. A shadow moved between the clouds, enormous, slow, beautiful, and terrifying. "Impossible," he whispered. The stories said dragons were extinct. The last had died 50 years ago. But what his eyes saw that night could not be mistaken, a living dragon. Wings torn, scales glowing faintly, flying low, struggling. She was coming toward him. Elias backed away instinctively. Every logical thought screamed run. But curiosity, that old dangerous thing, rooted him in place. The dragon descended, crashing into the field beyond his cabin. The ground split, dirt and stones flying. Kira barked and ran behind Elias, trembling. Through the dust and smoke, he saw her, enormous, breathing heavily, eyes glowing with desperate fire. And then he noticed the small shape in her claws, a baby dragon. The creature looked weak, dying maybe. Its tiny chest barely moved. Elias felt something deep inside him, a pull. The mother dragon's eyes locked on his, and for a strange, silent moment he understood her. Not through words, through feeling. "Help me." Elias raised his hand slowly. I don't know what you want," he said quietly, his voice shaking. "I'm just a man." But the dragon lowered her head until her eyes were level with his. She made a sound, not a roar, but a low, broken hum that vibrated through his bones. She nudged the hatchling forward, closer to him. Lightning flashed again, bright as day. Elias saw the creature clearly, the small chest rising unevenly, blue veins pulsing under its translucent scales. He swallowed hard. "You want me to help it?" The dragon blinked once, slow, deliberate. Yes, Elias's heart pounded. I'm not a doctor, I'm not. He stopped. The dragon's eyes were filled with such sorrow that his words turned to ash in his mouth. He looked at the little one again and saw something fragile, innocent, dying. He took a breath. Okay, he whispered, I'll try. The dragon exhaled softly, almost in relief. Then she laid down her head beside her child, exhausted. Her massive body shielded both of them from the cold wind. Elias ran back into his cabin, pulling out his old medical kit, his instruments, and a few vials of serum he'd made from his genetic research. His hands shook as he worked, his mind racing. He didn't know what he was doing. Dragons were a myth, an extinct species, but he couldn't watch a living creature die. Outside, thunder rolled again. The dragon lifted her head weakly, watching him work through the rain that had begun to fall. Her eyes glowed softer now, almost hopeful. Inside that lonely cabin, human and dragon stood at the edge of something unknown, an ancient creature trusting a human for the first time in centuries. And far away in the black clouds above, something else watched. Something that wanted the last dragons to die. Next part more you continue, Ike. The wind howled through the valley, carrying the smell of rain and something else. Metal, smoke, machines. Elior felt it before he heard it. The soft, unnatural hum of engines far above the clouds. He looked up, eyes narrowing. 3 black shapes moved in formation across the sky, silent but heavy. Military drones. He knew that sound from years ago when he worked for the same people who now hunted anything they didn't understand. They found us, he whispered. Inside the clearing, Sapphira stood protectively over her child. Kale still slept, his breathing slow but steady. A faint blue light pulsed beneath his scales. The healing nanofluid was working. But now there was no time to rest. Elior ran to his cabin and pulled open a hidden panel under the floor. Inside were old tools, broken gadgets, and a metal device shaped like a circular disc. It blinked weakly with green light. His old signal jammer. Come on, he muttered, connecting wires, sparks flying. The device hummed, struggling to start after so many years. He slammed it with his palm. Finally, it lit up, sending a pulse of static across the valley. Above them, the drones wobbled. Their red sensors flickered, trying to regain signal. Elior smiled faintly. That'll buy us 5 minutes. Sapphira turned her gaze toward him, sensing his urgency. They're coming for you, he said, grabbing a backpack filled with supplies. And for me too, we have to move. The dragon tilted her head, understanding more than words. Her tail curled protectively around Kale. Elior nodded. Yes, him too. I can carry what I can, but you'll need to fly. She looked up at the sky, wings still torn and weak. When she tried to spread them, pain shot through her body. Her roar was soft but full of frustration. Elior's eyes softened. You can't fly yet, can you? The dragon lowered her head. He thought quickly. The forest was thick, good for hiding, bad for running. But the old research tunnels beneath the mountain, those could work. If they could reach them, they might survive. All right, he said, we go underground. He packed medicine, his scanner, a small power cell, and a map. Then he turned toward her. Can you carry him? Sapphira gently lifted Kale in her claws, wrapping her tail around him like a cradle. She nodded once. Elior led the way, moving fast through the trees. The sound of engines grew louder behind them. The forest glowed red. Beams of light cut through the fog as the first drones descended. They scanned the area, machines clicking softly. Thermal readings detected. Target is mobile. From the drones, metal cables shot down, carrying black-armored soldiers. Their visors shone crimson in the dark. One of them knelt, touching the ground. Tracks, large, recent. Another soldier raised his weapon. Dragon confirmed. Orders. Alive, the commander replied coldly. Both of them, Elior and Sapphira, reached the edge of a rocky slope. Beneath them lay a narrow cave opening half-covered with moss. In there, he said. Sapphira moved carefully, her massive body scraping against stone. Kale whimpered softly but didn't wake. Elior slid in behind her, sealing the entrance with branches and dirt. The cave smelled of old metal and earth, a forgotten place. He turned on a small flashlight. The beam revealed rusted signs written in faded letters. Arden Research Division, restricted access. Elior's stomach tightened. "I used to work here," he muttered. Sapphira growled low, as if she could feel the ghosts of this place. The tunnel stretched deep into darkness. "Don't worry," he whispered. "We'll be safe for now." Outside, the soldiers reached the cabin. They found broken equipment, blood, and dragon scales scattered on the ground. "Sir, the trail leads east," one soldier said, scanning the dirt. The commander knelt beside the marks. His visor glowed red as he analyzed the pattern. "She's hurt," he said, "and she's not alone. Move out." He turned toward the sky. "Deploy the hunters." From the carrier ship above, 6 metallic hounds dropped through the air, landing on the forest floor with heavy thuds. Their eyes glowed blue, sensors locking on heat. They were half machine, half beast, creations born from stolen dragon DNA. The commander smiled coldly. "Let's see how she fights her own blood." Deep in the tunnel, Elior checked his scanner. Red dots blinked closer and closer. "They're coming fast," he said. Sapphira's body tensed. Her eyes burned gold again. "No," Elior said quickly. "Not yet. You're still weak. Let me handle this." He connected his datapad to the tunnel's old control panel. After a few tries, the dusty screen flickered to life. "System online," he typed fast, rerouting power through the grid. The walls shook as heavy doors began to close behind them. Then from the dark, metal claws scraped against stone. Elior turned. 6 glowing eyes emerged from the shadows. The hunter drones had found another way in. Sapphira growled low, her wings spreading wide even in the tight space. "Stay behind me," Elior said, holding a small pulse grenade. "I'm not letting them take you." The creatures charged. He threw the grenade. Light exploded across the tunnel, filling it with sound and static. Metal parts flew, sparks raining down. When the dust cleared, only 2 of the mechanical beasts were still moving. Sapphira's tail whipped like lightning, smashing one into the wall. The last one leapt at Elior, its claws outstretched. Then with a flash of blue fire, Kale woke. A weak, trembling breath escaped his throat, but it was fire. Real dragon fire. It hit the creature midair, melting its metal body into molten steel. The tunnel went silent. Elior turned, eyes wide. "You did it, little one," he whispered. Sapphira looked down at her child, pride and tears in her eyes. Her fire had returned through him, but the moment didn't last long. Above them, the ground shook again, heavy footsteps, voices. "They found us," Elior said quietly. He looked at the dragon and her son. "If we want to live, we'll have to fight back." The tunnel trembled like the world itself was holding its breath. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered and died. Then came the sound, heavy boots, metal scraping stone, and the low hum of energy weapons charging. Elior pressed his back against the wall, clutching his pulse rifle, an old weapon from another life. "They're here," he whispered. Beside him, Sapphira stood tall, her scales dim but strong again. Her golden eyes glowed in the dark. Kale lay near her, his tiny chest rising with new strength. A faint blue flame danced from his nostrils. Elior turned to her. "You need to protect him no matter what happens." The dragon lowered her head, understanding. Then footsteps echoed closer. Voices barked through radios. "Target confirmed, approaching main chamber. Weapons hot, remember we need them alive." Elior smiled bitterly. "They won't get what they came for." He pressed a switch on his datapad. The tunnel lights flashed red as old security systems came online. Turrets hidden in the walls turned and whirred. The first soldier entered the chamber and was met by a blast of plasma fire. The attack began. Sapphira roared, the sound shaking dust from the walls. Her wings unfolded, spreading like dark sails of fire. A wave of heat rolled across the tunnel. The soldiers fired, electric bolts streaking through the smoke. Some hit the stone, others struck her scales and sparked harmlessly. But one blast caught Elior's shoulder. He fell with a cry, clutching his arm. Sapphira's eyes flared gold. Her roar turned from warning to fury. She inhaled deeply, and this time she breathed fire. The tunnel filled with a river of light. The soldiers screamed as the heat melted steel and armor alike. Flames danced along the walls, devouring everything. Elior crawled behind a fallen console, his skin burning from the heat but his heart alive with awe. "You're magnificent," he whispered. Kale whimpered softly, sensing the danger. Elior looked at him. The little dragon tried to stand, his tail flicking weakly. A spark of fire glowed in his mouth. Sapphira turned, guarding both of them. Her scales glowed like molten gold, smoke rising from her wings. The last of the soldiers retreated, shouting through their comms. "Fall back, requesting heavy unit. Send the Titan." Elior froze. The Titan. He remembered that name, a weapon he helped design years ago. A machine meant to kill dragons, a weapon born from their blood. He looked up at her. "We have to leave now." They moved deeper into the tunnels. The walls were old and cracked, covered in strange symbols, ancient writing left by the scientists who once worked there. Elior limped forward, using his scanner to light the path. "These tunnels connect to the surface, can escape through the mountain pass." Sapphira walked beside him, her tail brushing the ceiling. She looked around at the carvings, drawings of dragons and humans together, not as enemies but allies. Elior stopped, staring at one of the murals. A tall man stood beside a dragon, hand on its snout. The image was old but clear. "It's true," he whispered. "We were never meant to fight." Sapphira tilted her head, her golden eyes reflecting the mural's firelight. He turned to her. "My ancestors worked with yours. They built peace. But then humans grew greedy. They turned your kind into weapons." He clenched his fist. "I helped them once. I built the machines that killed you." Sapphira's eyes narrowed, but she did not roar. She simply looked at him, and in her gaze he saw forgiveness. That hurt him more than any weapon could. The ground shook. A deep, mechanical roar filled the tunnel. Rocks fell from above. Then they saw it, the Titan unit. A metal giant, walking on 4 legs, each step making the earth quake. Its eyes glowed red, its body covered in thick armor and energy shields. It was shaped like a dragon, but made of steel. Elior's voice trembled. "It's worse than I remember." The Titan raised its head and roared, a sound not of life, but of hate. Its mouth opened, revealing a glowing cannon. Sapphira stepped forward, spreading her wings protectively in front of Elior and Kale. The machine fired. A beam of energy blasted through the tunnel, throwing fire and smoke everywhere. Sapphira screamed in pain, falling back. Elior rushed to her side. "Stay with me," he shouted. Her breathing was heavy, blood glowing like molten gold where the beam had grazed her shoulder. Kale growled weakly, his tiny claws digging into the dirt. Sparks crackled in his throat. Elior turned to the console beside him. The Titan was too strong to fight directly, but if he could overload the power grid, he began typing fast, wires sparking. Come on, the machine fired again. This time Sapphira dodged, roaring with fury. She spat fire across the tunnel, melting parts of the Titan's armor. Elior shouted, "Keep it busy." She did. He rerouted the power from the old generators. The walls shook, the lights flickered, then he pressed the final command. Overload. The explosion ripped through the tunnel like thunder. Fire filled the air. The Titan screamed as its circuits burned out. Metal melted into glowing slag. Elior was thrown backward. Dust and smoke covered everything. When the sound faded, only silence remained. Elior coughed, pushing himself up. Sapphira was lying nearby, her breathing heavy but alive. Kale was pressed against her side, unharmed. He smiled weakly. "We did it." She looked at him, eyes tired but bright. Then, in the faint light of the dying fire, she lowered her head close to him. Her voice, soft and ancient, echoed in his mind, not spoken but felt. "You carry guilt, human, but you also carry hope." Elior froze. "You can't speak." Not with words, she said, her eyes glowing softly. With heart. You saved my child, now I will save yours. He frowned. Mine. Before he could ask more, a distant rumble shook the ground again, more ships arriving above the mountain. The battle wasn't over, it had only just begun. Smoke still hung in the air like a fading storm. The tunnel walls were cracked and glowing faintly from the heat of the explosion. Elior leaned against a broken console, breathing hard. Every muscle in his body ached, but he was alive, and so were they. Sapphira lay nearby, her wounds glowing faintly gold. Kale, the young dragon, curled against her, his small body rising and falling in slow rhythm. His eyes opened weakly, bright, silver blue like stars reflected in water. Elior smiled faintly. Hey, little one, you're still with us. Sapphira lifted her head and looked at him. Her voice came again, not from her mouth, but straight into his mind. You risked your life for us. Why? He looked away. Because I owe you more than you know. She tilted her head slightly, waiting. Elior sighed. Years ago, before the last war, I worked for a group called Project Helios. We were told dragons were dangerous, that they carried a virus that could destroy human DNA. So we were ordered to end them. His voice cracked. I helped build the weapons, the titans, the toxins, everything that nearly wiped your kind from this world. Sapphira's golden eyes glowed brighter, but she stayed silent. Elior continued, his voice trembling. But I found something they hid. There was no virus. Dragons weren't a threat, they were the cure. Your blood could heal human diseases, even stop aging. That's why they hunted you, for your power. He clenched his fists. When I refused to continue the research, they branded me a traitor. I ran, and I thought your kind was gone forever until you came. For a moment, the only sound was Kale's soft breathing. Then Sapphira's voice came again, low and filled with sorrow. You carry their sin, yet your heart burns with guilt. You are not them. Elior looked up, meeting her gaze. I want to fix what I broke. Help me save him, and maybe together we can stop them. She nodded slowly. Elior opened his scanner again. The readings from Kale's body were strange, energy levels spiking, cells changing rapidly. His blood chemistry is different, he murmured, almost evolving. He connected the scanner to his datapad. The numbers moved faster. No, this isn't poison anymore. It's adaptation. The toxin I injected mixed with your healing cells, Sapphira. It's rewriting his DNA. Sapphira's voice echoed softly. What does that mean? Elior's eyes widened. It means your son isn't dying anymore. He's changing, becoming something new, something that can't be poisoned, can't be controlled. He looked at her with awe. He might be the first of a new kind of dragon. The ground rumbled suddenly, cutting his words short. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sapphira stood tall again, wings spreading slightly even in the narrow space. They are coming again. Elior glanced at his scanner, several red dots moving fast through the tunnels. They found another route. We have to move. He helped Kale climb onto Sapphira's back. The young dragon clung weakly but managed to hold on. Together they moved deeper underground, following the faint glow of old lights. The deeper they went, the colder it became. The tunnels changed, no longer built by humans, but something older. Strange markings glowed faintly on the walls, pulsing with soft blue light. Sapphira's voice was a whisper. This place, it is not human. Elior looked around, confused. You've been here before, long ago, she said. Before the wars, when dragons still ruled the skies, this mountain was sacred. It was the heart of our kind. We called it the Vault of Flames. The name made Elior shiver. The vault, I read about that in Helios files. They said it was a myth, a source of ancient power. Not myth, Sapphira said. Truth. It holds the fire of creation, the source of all dragon life. They entered a massive chamber. The walls shimmered like crystal, glowing with veins of molten gold. In the center was a floating orb of light, swirling with energy. Kale let out a soft chirp, the first sound he had made since his sickness began. The orb pulsed in response as if it heard him. Elior stepped closer. This is pure energy, it's alive. He turned to Sapphira. "This could save your kind." But before she could answer, a voice echoed through the chamber, metallic and cold. "And it will save ours too." Elior spun around. The commander from before stepped out of the shadows, flanked by soldiers. His visor glowed red. "Thank you, Doctor, you led us right to it." Elior's blood turned cold. "You were tracking me," the commander smirked. "Always. Project Helios never forgets its scientists." Sapphira roared, stepping between them and her child. Fire lit her throat. The commander raised a weapon shaped like a spear, its tip glowing blue. "Stand down, beast, or we'll take the boy by force." Elior shouted, "Don't touch him," and fired his rifle. The shot hit the commander's chest, sparks flying, but the armor held. The soldiers opened fire. Plasma bolts filled the chamber with chaos and light. Sapphira leapt forward, her fire blazing brighter than ever. The golden orb behind her began to react, pulsing wildly. Energy waves rippled through the floor. Kale screeched, his eyes glowing bright silver. Suddenly the orb's light flowed into him, energy wrapping around his body like liquid flame. Elior covered his eyes. "Kale, no!" The room exploded in light. When the glow faded, Kale stood taller, his scales shining like starlight. His small wings spread wide, leaving trails of silver fire in the air. Sapphira stared in shock. Elior whispered, "He's awakened." The soldiers fell back, terrified. The commander raised his weapon again, but Kale looked at him and the air itself seemed to bend. The weapon melted in his hands. Kale's voice echoed in every mind, pure and clear, "No more pain." And with a burst of blinding light, the soldiers vanished, gone like dust in the wind. Elior fell to his knees, speechless. He didn't kill them. He erased them. Sapphira turned to her son, eyes full of pride and fear. "The world will not understand this power." Elior looked at both of them. "Then we make them understand, together." Far above, thunder rolled again. Warships circled the mountain. The world had just changed and humanity would come for them all. But this time the dragons were ready. The world above the mountain burned. Dark clouds rolled over the sky, torn apart by the roar of engines. Human warships, hundreds of them, circled the peaks like vultures made of steel. Their searchlights stabbed through the smoke, hunting for one thing, the last dragons. Inside the mountain, the vault of flames pulsed with new energy. The golden light from its core spread across the crystal walls, filling the tunnels with warmth and thunder. Elior stood at the edge of the great chamber, staring up in awe. "It's waking up," he whispered. Beside him, Sapphira raised her head proudly, her scales glowing brighter than before. The ancient power of the vault was flowing through her and her son. Kale, now changed, no longer small or weak, stood tall beside his mother. His silver scales shimmered like mirrors reflecting lightning. When he breathed, the air itself glowed with light. Elior's heart pounded. "He's growing faster than anything I've ever seen. The energy, it's rewriting him." Sapphira turned her gaze to the ceiling. "He carries the flame of creation now. It accepts him." Elior swallowed hard. "Then humanity will see him as a weapon." She looked down at him, her golden eyes calm but sad. "Then you must teach them he is not one." Before he could answer, a deep rumble shook the mountain. The ceiling cracked, dust fell in showers. From far above, the echo of engines grew louder and closer. "They found us," Elior said, grabbing his pack. Outside, the sky split open. Dropships descended, their engines screaming. Dozens of metal claws tore through the clouds as soldiers rappelled down ropes. The mountain trembled as missiles struck the lower slopes. Trees burned, snow melted into rivers of steam. Inside the vault, alarms blared. Old systems, untouched for centuries, came alive again, warning lights flashing red across ancient control panels. Elior looked at his datapad. "They're trying to breach from the west side. If they break through that wall, the vault's energy will go unstable." Sapphira's wings flared wide. "Then we hold the mountain." Kale let out a deep, echoing roar. The entire chamber shook with it. Energy sparks leapt from his body and raced along the walls, awakening more light. For the first time, Elior saw its shadows forming in the glow. The outlines of other dragons, long gone but not forgotten. Their energy lingered like memories waiting to rise again. Elior's voice trembled. "They're not dead, they are inside the flame." Sapphira's gaze turned soft. "Their spirits guard this place, and now their fire answers to my son." Kale stepped forward. Silver light pulsed from his chest, spreading across the floor like a wave. The ancient carvings began to move, glowing symbols swirling around him. Outside, thunder cracked. Bolts of lightning struck the warships, shaking the sky. Elior whispered, "He's calling the storm." Moments later, the mountain exploded with light. Sapphira burst from the peak in a storm of golden fire, wings wide as the horizon. Kale followed, his silver flames trailing behind like a comet. For the first time in centuries, dragons flew again. The warships opened fire. Energy bolts filled the sky. The air screamed as heat and plasma clashed. Elior watched from a cliffside bunker, his heart pounding with fear and awe. He could hear the radio chatter from the human fleet. "Command, visual confirmation of 2 targets. They're ascending fast. Impossible, they're breaching our altitude." Sapphira spun through the air, her body glowing brighter than the sun. Her fire tore through one ship's engine, sending it spiraling down in flames. Kale darted upward, weaving between the beams faster than radar could track. His silver fire struck a carrier, freezing it midair before it shattered into glowing dust. The sky became a battlefield of light. Elior shouted into his communicator, "Stop firing. You're destabilizing the atmosphere, you'll destroy everything." But the commanders didn't listen. The fleet launched their final weapon, a massive cannon mounted on the lead ship, powered by dragon energy stolen long ago. The cannon charged with a sound like the world ending. Kale turned his head, sensing it. The weapon fired, a beam of pure white light cutting across the clouds. Sapphira dove in front of her son. The beam struck her chest. The explosion lit the sky. Elior screamed. "Oh!" Sapphira fell like a burning star, crashing into the valley below. Smoke and light burst upward in a golden wave. Kale roared, his cry echoing through mountains and hearts alike. His eyes blazed silver fire, tears of molten light falling from them. He hovered in the storm, wings spread, staring down at the ships. The humans stopped firing. Every radar, every engine died. Kale raised his head to the sky. His voice thundered inside every mind, human and dragon alike. No more death. The clouds opened. Light poured down, not fire, not destruction, but life. The golden glow from the vault rose into the heavens, spreading across the world like dawn after endless night. Elior fell to his knees, tears in his eyes. The warships stopped moving. Their weapons melted. The soldiers dropped their rifles, unable to fight. Every human felt it, a warmth inside their hearts, a memory of something ancient and peaceful. The flame of the dragons touched them all. Hours later, the battle was over. Smoke drifted through the mountains. The ships hovered quietly in the sky, their lights dim. Elior climbed down into the valley, calling out, "Sapphira, Kale." Through the mist he saw her. Sapphira lay among the ruins, her chest rising slowly. She was alive, barely. Kale knelt beside her, his wings folded, his fire dim. Elior ran to them. "You did it, you stopped the war." Sapphira opened one eye, her voice soft in his mind. "The fire is yours now, Elior. Protect it, protect him." He shook his head. "No, you can't leave," but she smiled, a faint, warm light. "I will never leave, I live in the flame." Her body shimmered, turning into golden light and drifted into the sky, merging with the vault's glow above the mountain. Kale watched, silent. His mother's light wrapped around him once, then vanished. Elior placed a hand on his arm. "She's with you, Kale, always." Kale looked toward the horizon, where dawn was breaking, the first peaceful sunrise in 100 years. The war was over, but the world was forever changed. For the first time in centuries, the skies were silent, no engines, no weapons, no screaming fire. only the sound of the wind passing through the broken mountains and the distant call of something new being born. The great vault of flames glowed faintly within the mountain, no longer burning with rage, but with peace. Its golden light rose into the clouds, forming a single beam that reached the stars, a reminder of what was lost and what had been found again. Elior stood at the edge of the valley, staring at the sunrise. The light touched his face softly, warming his cold skin. His arm was still bandaged from the battle, but his heart was alive. He could still hear Sapphira's last words echoing in his mind. Protect the flame, protect him. He turned his gaze toward the young dragon beside him. Kale stood taller now. His silver wings shimmered with morning light, each scale reflecting gold from the rising sun. He was no longer the weak hatchling who had once needed saving. He was something new, half fire, half light, and something even beyond both. Elior smiled softly. Your mother would be proud. Kale lowered his head. His voice was quiet but clear, echoing like a song in Elior's thoughts. She is not gone. I feel her in the air, in the flame, in me. Elior nodded. And she'll never fade, because you carry her spirit. Kale's eyes shone brighter. Then we must finish what she began. Weeks passed. The surviving humans who once came to destroy now stood in awe of what they had seen. They returned to their cities carrying memories of the light, a warmth that burned not their skin but their fear. The governments fell silent. The armies stopped marching. The war machines were abandoned, their purpose erased. For the first time, humanity began to listen. And from the mountains, Kale and Elior began to rebuild. Together they formed the pact of fire and flesh, a promise between humans and dragons. The humans would protect the flame. The dragons would share their wisdom and power, not as masters, not as slaves, but as equals. Elior became the bridge between the two worlds, a man once cursed by guilt, now remembered as the healer of flames. He taught humans how to use the energy of the vault for healing, for growing food, for creating life instead of weapons. The same technology once built for death now gave birth to forests, clean water, and warmth for the coldest lands. Kale, the first of the new generation, flew across the skies, spreading his mother's light. Where his shadow touched, barren lands bloomed again, storms calmed, rivers ran clear. The world began to heal, but peace never comes without questions. One night, under a moonlit sky, Elior sat beside a campfire at the edge of the valley. Kale rested nearby, his massive body curled like a sleeping mountain. Elior looked up at the stars. Do you think they'll come again, the ones who built Helios? Kale opened one silver eye. If they do, we will show them what we have become, not weapons, not beasts, but guardians. Elior smiled sadly. You sound like her. Kale's gaze softened. She taught me that strength is not in fire, but in mercy. They sat in silence for a long time, listening to the wind. Then far in the distance, another roar echoed through the sky. But this time it was not a sound of war, it was a song. Elior stood, eyes wide. Shapes moved against the stars, not machines, but wings, dozens of them. Dragons. Smaller, younger, glowing faintly with light, the flame had awakened them from the earth, from the hidden eggs buried long ago. Kale raised his head and roared back, his voice filled with joy. Sky answered with 100 echoes. Elior's heart swelled. They're back, he whispered. Kale looked down at him. No, they were waiting for hope. He spread his wings and looked toward the horizon. Come, Elior, the world needs to see. Elior climbed onto Kale's back. The dragon rose into the air, his wings pushing against the clouds. The valley shrank below them, glowing like a sea of gold. The morning sun broke fully over the horizon, painting the sky with light. Below, people stepped out of their shelters, shielding their eyes, and for the first time they didn't see dragons as monsters. They saw guardians of life. Kale's voice carried across the world, soft yet powerful. No more walls, no more fear. This world belongs to all who breathe beneath its sky. Elior held on tightly as they soared higher, feeling the wind rush past. He looked down and saw humans and dragons standing side by side, rebuilding, healing, beginning again. Tears filled his eyes. "We did it, Sapphira," he whispered to the wind. "Your flame lives on." Kale tilted his wings toward the rising sun. The light caught his scales, scattering across the clouds like countless stars. And as they flew higher, the golden beam from the vault merged with the sunlight, creating a symbol across the sky, a burning spiral of gold and silver, seen by every living being on Earth. It was not a sign of war. It was a sign of unity. The beginning of a new era, the era of flame and flesh. "And then we will make a new world," he said softly. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to become part of this story. This is born of two worlds where reality ends and imagination begins.